Hello there, friends and sane persons. It's a little bit later today. I had some people over for board games, so, priorities, right? But anyway, it's time for another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Wednesday Whimsy is a short show that I, Kyle, do every Wednesday evening where I talk about a board game, a top 10, a board game topic, some sort of game-related thing, usually. Sometimes it's not, but most of the time it is. Something game-ish that happens to be on my mind. So today I decided to do not a top 10 list, not a review, not that. I'm going to do a game topic, and it's probably going to be a recurring topic, and those are always fun. This is going to be our first episode of Board Game Makeovers. So Board Game Makeovers is a series where I'm going to talk about newer printings of board games that have substantially or significantly changed the way maybe a frumpy old game looked and made it look a lot nicer. And so what I thought I would do is today I'm going to talk about two games that have recently come out with better quality reprints, and I'll tell sort of what I think about them, what I like about them, what maybe I don't. These are games that I like anyway, otherwise I hopefully wouldn't be buying the reprint. But anyway, let's see how it goes. So without further ado, I'm going to go over here to share my screen. And the first game I'm going to talk about is one of just sort of those games that one of the first ones that comes to my mind when I talk about or think about an ugly game. And that game is, let me share the screen here, Ethnos. So Ethnos is a game, it's a great game by Paulo Mori, and in this game you are you're gathering and playing sets of cards, really, right? You've got a set of cards, and you're trying to make sets of the same color or the same picture, basically, same fantasy race. What the problem with the game is the artwork, some people like it, but most people don't. And then the board itself is just almost comically bad, right? It's got these very unusual colors that kind of really don't fit with the theme. You have this, these different lands here that are very generic fantasy lands. You've got Duras, the land of generic condoms down there. Sorry. But anyway, it's just, these bright colors, kind of a boring looking board, a board that goes to 60, which is just not the greatest number to go around, right? Because then if you're going to be adding your score, you've got to do it at a base 60. The game itself just doesn't look great. It has all these, the colors are easy to see. The artwork is at least distinctive, but I just don't know. Many people, including myself, found this game to be a little on the ugly side. Well, fast forward, it then went out of print. Unfortunately, it didn't get all of the support that it probably needed to really stay alive. But it's been republished recently by another publisher, by Space Cowboys. They've changed the name, and the game is now called Archaeos Society. So it's no longer a fantasy theme. Instead, it's an archaeology theme. I'll tell you, the theme isn't really all that strong, but we've got, the artwork here is better. It's, brighter colors. People look a little bit more like people. The others just look like generic fantasy artwork. It has symbols to tell you what the card does rather than text. And I will say, I think the text is always better than a symbol. And then the other thing is, rather than being a board where you're doing the area control, in this one, you're just going to be moving your little vehicle up these tracks, and you can see very cleanly if I'm in this spot here, I'll get 2 points at the end of the round. You'll see it shows you how many cards you need to play to move up. And so it's just sort of a very clean look. It makes the game a little bit easier to explain. I always found the area control aspect of Ethnos to be a little bit difficult. It was hard for people to process. Okay, if I want to put a second token, I need to play a set of at least two. You wouldn't think it was very hard, but many people had trouble with that. But anyway, the artwork is just generally better and brighter. The scoreboard, rather than being a track that goes to 60, It's instead this spindly, windy track. Oh, well, there's that lady. She looks like she's having a great time. Um, you have this track over here. I don't know why I can't show us. Here we go. Um, so you have this scoreboard where you're just going to kind of go around, but unfortunately, rather than being just around, it has this weird shape where you'll go in here, and then you'll go back there, and then you'll go back there. It's one of those windy, spindly, snaky tracks, and those tend to be easy to make mistakes on. But at least it goes high enough that you're not going to have to add and subtract from 60. So the pieces are now these wooden pieces, sort of more muted tones, and the artwork is generally better. The game, I say, as far as how it plays, it's largely the same as it ever was. But in terms of a board game makeover, I think this one does a good job. I think Ethnos itself did not necessarily jump off the table in terms of what it was trying to provide. It was a game that I often had to sort of convince somebody. I would say, look, this game's actually pretty good. You just sort of ignore how it looks. And, it once it was a Sweet Spirit. That's what I should call this, board game Sweet Spirits. It was a great game. I still have it. But the newer version is certainly much better looking. Gameplay wise, it's almost exactly the same. I don't know why people always insist on calling me while I am recording, but there's that. Anyway, that's our first board game makeover of the night. Let's now talk about the second board game makeover, and this is I think so. Ethnos to Archaeos Society was kind of a lateral move. This one here is a night and day difference. Let's see if I can find it here. I should be able to find it. I don't know why I can't. All right, here we go. The original game is a classic, one of the best sort of old school classic-y games, and that is Castles of Burgundy. Castles of Burgundy has, it starts out with this boring landscape of a person gazing out over a landscape where he sees a river and a castle. And the game itself is an exercise in discerning shades of brown. You have, various shades of beige and brown. You've got your tokens are all these thin little tiles that are kind of chitsy feeling. You've got just muted colors, lots of this brownish yellow again. Even when it's all set up and finished, it just kind of all blends together. This is a game that many people kind of have, it's almost universally seen as it's not a particularly good-looking game. However, the game itself is fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It's very fast. It's very easy to play. There's not a whole lot of rules in here. Unfortunately, you have all these things that have special abilities or actions, and they're told to you with pictures here that, make sense once you know what you're talking about, but as a whole, not really. Lots of iconography. Anyway, this game was recently remade and republished in a brand new edition. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Is this going to be the same one? No, that's the card game. That's not what we wanted. Let's type it in. Castles of Burgundy. I guess it is special edition. So this is by sort of massive miniatures, complicated games publisher Awaken Realms. And we start here just looking at the board, at the cover. Whereas the original cover was a brown box with this guy looking out over the mountains, here we still have people looking out over the mountains. Really, they've just changed the perspective a little bit, but it's much more colorful. The castle looks a whole lot more exciting than that old one. Even from the box cover, it's much better. But then once you get into the actual game itself, you can see right away everything. You can see immediate differences. First of all, you have these arguably unnecessary minis, but for a game that's called the Castles of Burgundy, I guess they wanted the castles to stand out a little bit. The player pieces are also these, little minis. There's a little bust that you move around as your score marker. and a little castle that's kind of your turn order track. You'll see these are the washed ones. These are the ones that I have that are just very, very nice. You can actually see, here's a comparison of the new version versus the old anniversary version, which basically had a boring box. Actually, it looks like these are both the new version. I don't know why they're showing the box for the old one. But everything is very bright. It has this little grid thing, this plastic grid to hold all the hexagonal tiles in place so that things don't get shifted around if you bump the table. All of the pieces here, these are the turn order pieces. They were just discs in the old game. You've got metal coins. You've got these custom dice, which are just regular dice, but they have sort of a fancy feel to them. And then most people probably go, you've got this expansion with these vineyards, and you've got this nice little holder to hold them all. And then what is really nice, and I might not be able to find, and this is, I guess, the base version, but for people who wanted to buy the nicer version, these are all sort of thick plastic or this bakelite tiles. So they're, or maybe resin, I don't know what they are, but there's some sort of a thick, happy, nice to hold material that's, really nice to handle, stands out. And you'll notice actually in the tiles, the castles themselves are burgundy in color rather than green, which, hey, even it's a small thematic choice. You've got these double layered player boards with room for everything to hold your tokens, to hold your bonus scoring, even to keep your dice, which is completely unnecessary. This is just you've got these wooden tokens for the goods. It's a very luxurious edition of the game. And it's a game that maybe didn't need to be super deluxe, but that guy certainly seems excited about it. But it really is very nice. It's all of the colors are distinct in this one. There's not sort of different shades of green. The board has artwork on it. The score track just goes around the board rather than doing this weird kind of zigzag cutout thing. I believe in the original one, part of the board was even blocked off and you had to skip over some numbers. You've got these nice draw bags for you to keep the tokens in and draw them out because many of them are drawn randomly. In the original, you just made face down stacks. And this is just a really nice edition of the game. It did not need to be that nice, but I can't see why having this new one that you would ever be there. You see the nice thick tokens, the sort of plastic or resin tokens. They're really quite nice. Anyway, this new edition is very lush. It's expensive. It's much more expensive than the original, but I would say it's probably worth it. It makes it so that this is a game that will just get played all that much more. Also, you have all of the expansions in here, including some new ones, and including all of the different player board layouts. So this is the edition to go for. If you have the base game, not the upgraded pieces, it also says on the back of them what the piece does, so you don't have to look at a table. But there's a nice player aid that shows you what everything does in case you have the resin ones, the nicer tokens. And supposedly there's a sticker coming out you can put on the back if you really want to. Anyway, this is definitely an upgrade. The gameplay itself has not changed. Oh, look, there you can kind of see the different versions of it. You can actually see definitely here, this is a good comparison. This is the church on the plastic version. This is the church on the cardboard version. This is the original church, original market, or actually this isn't even the original. This is from the special edition. You can kind of see that they're bigger pieces. They're just in size and scope. Everything is much nicer. So this is a major upgrade. Even the dice you can see are better in the new version. So from head to tails, there's nothing that I would keep from the old version. In fact, I'll probably give my old version away. But the makeover that they have done at Awakened Realms, sure, some of the portions maybe are not necessary. The minis didn't really need to be there, but they're sure nice. In fact, if you went way into the rabbit hole, you could get 3D minis of all the pieces. So like ship pieces that were 3D. And I didn't do that. I might eventually get them. but it seemed kind of unnecessary because these sort of plastic tiles are so nice to handle. I don't know that I would want to replace them with the Ship Mini. Anyway, this isn't going to be a long series, and we'll come back to it. I have a lot of other games that have been reprinted in second editions that I'll definitely want to talk about. But yeah, that's it. That's all I had planned for today. We'll probably do another one of these in the future, like I mentioned. We might talk about the Lagrange Deluxe Edition. We might talk about something we've covered before, which is Catacombs. I don't know. There's a lot of games that have been sort of really upped in quality as they've been reprinted, and I think that's fantastic. And I'm a sucker, and I'll always buy the reprint. So, if I buy the reprint, hey, come see me. You might be able to get a copy of the older game for free. Anyway, that's all that I have for you tonight. I'm going to wish you safe travels and courage when you need it, and I hope to see you back in a week, next Wednesday, for another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Bye-bye.